Running on Air by eleventy7, Ch.6.2. It's a very long week waiting for the test results. When Harry's not working his other cases, he's in the Muggle liaison office, badgering people about making arrangements. When he finally receives news on Thursday that a DNA sample has been successfully retrieved, he begins badgering Butterworth instead. It seems strange to be living in the apartment with its clean white walls and convenient-sized Christmas tree. To be walking along the streets of London, passing beneath the bright and extravagant festive displays. Twinkling lights looped overhead, and strings of gold stars and electric blue snowflakes. To see the people laughing, crowded in pubs and inns, drinking spiced cider and mulled wine. Happy Christmas, the signs in the shop windows proclaim. Diagon Alley, enchanted to have soft, warm snow falling over its streets, is awash with festive cheer, and every shop has a wizarding wireless playing carols and the beloved Christmas classics. Outside, quality Quidditch supplies are signed states in colourful lettering. Buy the latest Sky Blazer and make it home for Christmas. Yes, it seems strange to be here while Draco Malfoy may have died 3 years ago. If he died alone in the cold and unforgiving tide of the Celtic Sea, the worst part is that Harry hadn't even noticed for 3 years. Do you remember when we were 11? Let's go back to that. Sometimes Harry's tempted. Saturday is the day of Ginny's big match. If the Wandsworth Warriors win this game, they'll reach the season final. Harry can't go to the match. He apologizes profusely to Ginny, saying he has to interview relatives about a recent case. Ginny's disappointed, but she says she understands. I don't know how you do it, she says. Most poor families. Harry feels absolutely terrible about lying, and he knows he's been behaving so distant lately, and he's been dreadfully on edge this week. He waits for Ginny to say something about it, but she kisses him and wishes him luck with the case before portkeying to Swindon. So instead, he goes and prepares himself for the real reason for his absence from the game, his practical driving test. Matthew drives him to the test centre. Got all your paperwork? He asks. Yes. Harry feels as nervous as he did before he faced the Hungarian horntail. A theory test certificate? Yes. Nervous about the test, eh? Matthew says, pulling into the centre car park. That's obvious. You've been stressed all week. You noticed? Harry says slowly. Hermione and Ron had noticed too, asking Harry if something had happened. He told them the truth. He'd found a possible match for Draco. It had been a relief to just tell them, and that had helped a little. They walk into the centre and sit in the waiting area. Harry had spent the entire morning wondering if he should just call off the test. Why did he start learning to drive anyway? He's fully qualified at apparating and has board keys. He can use the Flu network, and the Ministry can even provide him with driverless cars. But he wanted to do something for himself, for once. What's the point in that? Sitting in a box, going only where someone else takes you? Deep down, there's another reason he learned to drive. But he's not ready to voice it just yet. Harry Potter? A woman asks, stepping into the waiting area. Harry likes the way Muggles say his name, in that blandly polite way. We'll check your paperwork and take a brief eyesight test, then you'll be ready for the practical. Harry stands up. He returns to the testing centre 40 minutes later. Matthew, apparently deeply absorbed in a very ancient-looking copy of Good Housekeeping, takes a minute to notice Harry's return. Well? Matthew says. Harry smiles. Harry apparates back to the apartment while Matthew drives home. Matthew had been keen to celebrate over a few butterbeers, saying that Astoria had offered an invitation to dinner, but Harry politely declined, saying he had some work to do.
On Saturday? That's rough,
Matthew had said with surprise, but had made arrangements for Harry to visit on Sunday for dinner instead. Right now, Harry just wants some time alone to think about things. His happiness at receiving a full license is negated by everything else that seems to be going on in his life. Not 5 minutes after arriving in the apartment, he receives a fire call from Butterworth. Unusual, as his colleagues know to only use personal fire calls in urgent situations.
Got your results,
Butterworth says without preamble, and Harry scrambles over the fireplace.
You only got the sample on Thursday. I put in overtime and carried out the test this morning, just so you'd stop visiting my office every 5 minutes and requesting updates,
Butterworth says irritably, but Harry's grateful nevertheless.
Here's a result.
A piece of paper flutters through the fireplace, and Harry snatches it up quickly, skimming past all the typical file information until he's reached the only part that matters.
Match?
Negative. 0.5%. Notes? Muggle sample provided.
It's not. They were a Muggle,
Harry asks blankly. Butterworth nods.
The sample was Muggle. Complete absence of magical signature.
Harry stares at the paper, reading the words over and over.
Match negative.
Thanks, he says distantly.
Have a good weekend, Butterworth. I will if I don't see you.
He terminates the fire call. Harry slumps against the wall, sliding slowly down it until he's sitting on the floor. Match negative. He lets himself have a good 20 minutes of reprieve before he straightens up, then stands and heads towards the dining table. He needs to do some serious analysis of his meeting with Draco's solicitor. Ginny comes home in an unusually happy mood, especially since her team lost the match.
I've got something to tell you,
she says to Harry.
Me too,
he says. Everything. I've got everything to tell you. The driver's license will be a wonderful surprise. You can only imagine Ginny's expression, and there's so much more he wants to say. Are the things they somehow never find the time to tell each other.
Well, we can share our news Friday night,
she says, smiling.
I've made reservations at a new restaurant, just opened in Eigen Alley. Looking forward to it,
Harry says, feeling quite gratified. It's been a long time since Ginny planned a date. Things might be all right. But that night, he finds it impossible to sleep. He keeps thinking about Draco's case, his mind racing over thousands of possibilities, thousands of tiny clues he might be overlooking or misinterpreting. He waits until Ginny's asleep, then gets up and picks up the box beside his bedside table, carrying it out into the kitchen and setting it up on the counter.
Lamos,
he whispers. The warm light casts a gentle glow over the Hogwarts textbooks, the bottle of aged whiskey, the origami rose the colour of a faded pink heart. Harry reaches for the first textbook. He hadn't looked at this book last time, on account of it being very firmly tied shut with a length of rope. The Monster Book of Monsters. Harry unties the rope. Set of beady eyes open, but soon flutter shut again when Harry runs a finger along the spine. After waiting a moment to ensure the book is settled, he begins flipping through the pages. He is certain Draco would have never bothered with this book. Notes and notes of tiny writing in the margins. Harry gazes, struck with incredulity at the observation.
The Limex should be approached with caution. Vehicles tend to have poor eyesight and rely on their hearing to locate targets. Cast a silencing charm before approaching.
The notes, same as all of Draco's other ones, throughout the years seem to focus on practical techniques and applications rather than theoretical knowledge. He seemed to have had an obsession with documenting each step perfectly, making sure there was no room for error. Harry turns a page.
Hippogriff,
the title announces, but the rest of the page has been torn away. That moment he realizes Buckbeak attacking Draco must have been a scene of utter humiliation for Draco. Judging from the lack of notes, Draco hadn't prepared adequately for the lesson and had consequently been thoroughly defeated by the Hippogriff. Of course, Harry thought irritably, it had been Draco's own fault. The arrogant prat hadn't been paying attention. But soon enough his irritation turns to pensiveness as he thinks about Draco as he was in the early years at Hogwarts. Immature, always showing off his wealth and drawing attention to himself. There had been a brush of confidence that had slowly melted away, taking the last of Draco's childhood with it and leaving someone else. Someone who had away all the time, he thinks as he remembers 6th year. Someone who seemed permanently afraid, always retreating, always looking away.
You were always so terrified of failure,
Harry mutters.
Probably, but it's difficult to hear someone say that about me.
Harry doesn't move for a moment.
It's just in your head. You just thought you heard Draco say that.
He looks up. Draco stands across the room, facing away from Harry, looking out across the London skyline, one hand resting on the cool glass.
It's a nice view,
Draco continues, as if he hadn't spoken moments before.
But this isn't you, is it, Potter? This is nothing. A concrete box in the sky.
He leans so close to the glass, Harry can see his breath mist over it.
You need something grounded, something real.
Tell me, how did you get inside my head? It frightens Harry for a moment that Draco Malfoy knows him better than most of his friends, better than his colleagues, better than Ginny even. Then he remembers.
You're not real.
Draco jumps. It's almost worth it just to see him do that. He whips around and stares at Harry.
You can see me. This is a dream. Just another dream.
Harry says more to convince himself than actually respond to Draco. Draco still staring at Harry like he's a new species of a dragon.
You're not supposed to see me,
Draco says at last.
Or hear me. Why not?
If it's a dream, Harry decides he's perfectly fine with it.
You didn't the other times,
Draco says, his voice almost accusatory.
What other times? All those other times when you were going through my memories and possessions. You were watching me.
All those times Harry accessed memories and rifled through Draco's possessions. Did Draco watch him when he was sitting in the Renault Megane?
You can see me like a ghost following me around?
Draco looks amused.
There you go again, Potter,
he says,
thinking the world revolves around you.
He turns away, gazing out across the twinkling lights of London, faint under an early winter mist.
I'm not a ghost. Where are you? I'm trying to find you. I know.
Draco rests a hand lightly on the glass of the sliding door again.
I can't tell you where I am.
Harry's silent for a long time. It's something he's learned from Draco, from all those endless nights spent in the memory of Draco driving through dark streets and long highways. It lends Harry patience and contemplation.
Can't,
Draco had said.
I can't tell you.
Not, I won't. Some external factor was preventing Draco from disclosing his location then. Either a person or a spell. He looks up. Draco's studying him. Years ago, he thinks, Draco would have said something acerbic by now.
Forgotten how to speak again, Potter.
Or something similar.
You've changed a lot,
Harry says.
So have you.
How would you know?
I can see you when you're around my old possessions or memories.
Draco says, looking away to gaze out the window again.
It's like watching pensive memories.
Watching me, watching you, Harry says.
Another circle. There's a certain duality about it, yes.
Harry studies Draco. He should have realized. Those first few conversations with Draco seemed somehow far too placid, far too accepting of Harry's sudden appearance in his life. It makes sense now to realize Draco's been there the whole time. Right from the start, perhaps. Watching Harry in the Owl Emporium, watching him read through the textbook, the notebook. Watching him as he sat in the Renault Megane. Harry wonders what Draco was thinking as he watched Harry pull apart his life.
Can you tell me how you disappeared?
Harry asks. There's a sharp splintering noise, as if the air around Draco is cracking like glass. Harry takes a step backwards. Draco says, but his voice wavers on the air like someone plucking a metal wire, and the noise seems to wrap around Harry's mind, cutting into it, and he knows something is terribly wrong.
Don't, he says urgently. Don't answer.
But there is a sound like glass exploding, like someone's thrown a mirror across the room, and pure agony flashes across Draco's face just a second before he suddenly vanishes into thin air. Harry waits a long moment, wand held high, his heart hammering, then crosses over to the sliding door, staring at it carefully. There is nothing there. No crack in the glass, no mark, not even a fingerprint. Draco has gone, or perhaps he was never there. Harry says his name just once, and it's a light question that hangs in the air like a snow cloud. For a moment, Harry is standing on the Cornish coast again, calling out into the storm-tossed sea, listening to his voice echo across the cliffs. Draco. That night, the windows rattle in their panes like a rested spirit caught in the winter winds. To be continued.